I think we should just start in like this.
Yeah, it's less staged, yeah. Because we don't like nothing we do is staged anyway. We
No.
barely have a conversation about it before we start talking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's just roll with it.
All the beautiful beginning of the year, New Year stuff. I have a love-hate relationship with the New Year. Do you?
Yeah, you and me both. More
Yeah.
hate than love, to be honest. Until like I'd like to say February, but I still like the end of February, really, if I'm
Yeah.
honest.
I feel like I have a honeymoon period with the New Year from like December to about like mid-January because I'm like really because I will make all these plans, right? And I will get new planners and new decks and new all the things, right? And then so there's like this honeymoon period where I'm like, it's gonna be so great. It's like planning all of this stuff. And then January comes and I start into all of it. And then I go, I just made a bunch of homework for myself. And then about halfway through January into February, I fall out of love with half of the things that I was doing.
Mm. That is
So
literally the problem. That I don't know how the new, because obviously this happened before. I'm sure before either of us were in existence, but I don't know
mhm.
how this weird productivity layer got woven so deeply into traversing from one year to another. But
Mhm.
it seems kind of impenetrable at this point because if you
Yeah.
opt out of it, people are like, "What's wrong with you?"
There's no difference between December 31st and January 1st. Nothing happens.
No.
It's
There's not
just
even
like
any like for the astrologers and stuff out there and the other stuff. I don't think there's like a specific
it,
planetary thing that happens without
I
fail.
don't think not right at that time, I don't think. If you think about like the shift from like Sabbath wise from like Yule,
Yeah.
that's on the 21st, not at the end of the year. So it's a really weird thing because like I'm constantly saying to Kevin drives him bananas, but I'm like, time's a construct. It doesn't actually exist.
It's true.
Because it doesn't actually exist. We have made it up, like this idea of a calendar or clocks or whatever. But
Mm.
that's the thing. You hit December 31st, and all of a sudden, January 1st, like it's like you were born again and you're supposed to be a whole new you. And it's like, I'm the same person I was yesterday. It's no different.
It's a lot of effort. And also, it kind of, and I am sure that this is not the case for everyone, but I can't help but recognize as I get older the inherent sort of subtle suggestion that therefore there must have been something wrong with us. Like there's a
Mhm.
better, we can be a, Tegan 2.0, or in this instance, we'd be way
Yeah.
past that. Like,
Yeah.
but it's kind of very few people make resolutions that are kind of, I guess, really open-ended, flexible, nourishing for them, supportive of who perhaps they already are. It feels very kind of wired around doing more or doing better.
Mhm. Trying to fix a problem. I feel like most resolutions are trying to fix a problem. I stopped
Yeah,
making resolutions a long time ago.
yeah,
It
me
just,
too. I didn't
it's
like
just
the
a
mountains.
disappointment.
Yeah.
Like, I just disappoint myself. I don't need a New Year's resolution to do it. I can do it in any
Oh,
given day.
you do so much. You should be impressed with yourself.
Should be. Totally not.
Yeah, you're like, nah.
Yeah. Nope. Nothing's ever good enough, done right. You know how that goes. I know you know how that goes.
Yeah, I do. I'm a giant hypocrite. I can't help but feel like whoever created the new year, new me kind of thing forgot that we were animals. And like, I hate
Yeah.
to sound like a repetitive hippie or whatever, but I'm like, we surely for those of us in the northern hemisphere at least, because I guess it is. I'd be really curious actually to hear from someone in the southern hemisphere if it feels different, because
Hmm.
obviously they're not in winter. But
Right.
like for me, I'm like, I'm meant to be hibernating, surely. It's
Hmm.
time to eat more food and sleep more. And
Hmm. Not try to be more productive. Yeah.
yeah, like I
Hmm.
already live in a constant state of trying to be more productive. I don't
Hmm.
need extra.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's a interesting concept. I feel like I fluctuate better more with the seasonal energy too than the big picture year thing, which
Yeah.
sounds ridiculous considering I do a lot of stuff in year blocks. But me personally, like I I function better following more of that seasonal rhythm. And the interesting thing is it's not always like my internal rhythm isn't always in alignment with what is externally going on
Mm.
too. And so I've had to kind of come to that, especially when it came to like my deck stuff, because I used to be very like I had seasonal baskets.
Mm.
And that was very much a way that I kind of managed my deck collection and tried to move through my decks and let them reflect what was going on within the season. But as time went on, and what I've kind of realized over the last few years is like, I don't necessarily internally operate in what's going on externally. So having my decks in external seasons
No, then
doesn't
doesn't
really work because it doesn't really match. So now kind of what I have is I have more thematic groupings, and I have still light side and dark side. And that's kind of how, because I have two bookshelves. So there's like all the light decks and all the dark decks.
Oh, that's
But
clever.
it helps to like my books are categorized by that too. It's kind of funny because like all of my like I was gonna say like love and light woo books, which is a terrible way to say it, but I can't think of it better. And all my goddess books and all of that, like they're
Yeah.
all on that side. All of my writing books, about like how to be a better writer or whatever, it's all over there. On the other side, with the dark side, is all my witchy books, all my fiction books, like even all that stuff is categorized by light and dark. So I feel like as far as like an overarching energy, there's like the light and dark, but then there's those seasonal nuances in it.
Yeah.
But it's never just one thing. Like it doesn't just shift like that. I feel like I was in a winter sort of dark energy type of vibe in summer.
Mm.
Like I didn't want summer decks. I wanted my winter decks. I wanted the cool and the kind of detached and the darker and the meant to go a little bit more introspective. And I started shifting into that clear back in summer.
Yeah.
And it's only kind of deepened, I think, over the last few months.
Yeah.
But then come like January, sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, now I want like cool and crisp and like fresh, almost like spring energy because it's January and because I think New Year, it's kind of like we were talking about this earlier. Spring should be more New Year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the middle of freaking winter if you're someplace where it, gets cold and snows and,
It's not the vibe.
It's not the vibe. No, it's not the vibe. It's a weird disconnect between what is happening, I think, externally versus what we try to do internally.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, we're animals, so we have so disconnected from that as a species that we don't really function as a species in alignment with nature anymore.
And I like to think of what you said as like your micro seasons, because of course we have micro seasons within that in the same way that like if people wanted to use the fool's journey as like a concept, we know that it doesn't go linear, but also that you can have like a zillion of those fool's journey in like a period of time. Like it's not like swiftly go through one of them each year and come out of the world, which I feel like is in fact that's what the metaphor feels like. It feels like we're expected to step out of the world card and into the Fool card meets the magician, because obviously you need a bit of that like knowing and channeling as well. So like that sort of traversing, and I feel like that's where we're sort of encouraged to be by society, and that's really not usually where I'm at all, like not even close. I'm somewhere between like anywhere between like a hermit, it could be a death, it could be tower, because I have my own like experience of the season in terms of like physically as well. So like my body doesn't enjoy the cold, and therefore poor winter, which represents really great themes that I love, is also my nemesis, because
It's the
It's too
hardest time
cold.
physically. Yeah.
It's too
Yeah.
fucking cold. So I definitely, but
Yeah.
yeah, I do feel like we've been removed from it, and I'm sure that people have heard me say it and they'll be bored, but I will die on that hill for sure. For me, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
It makes sense to me too. It's that whole like the expectation I think that goes along with the whole new year, like we said, like it's supposed to be a whole new you. It's like that's why I think I don't like year ahead readings. Like the whole idea of this expectation. I've done them for years. I
Mm.
did them for years. I've experimented with so many different kinds of them. But I feel like that expectation of the year ahead reading carries that initial expectation from that sort of January New Year vibe
Yeah.
consistently month after month after month. Like you have to keep tapping back into it. And I don't operate that way.
Mm.
I can't look at it and go, oh, this is a refresh of energy because the calendar changed and it's a new day or it's a new
Yeah.
month. My body and my brain and my creative flow don't operate on a calendar.
Mm. That's a really
So,
good point, actually. I hadn't thought about that really like finite specified bit of it, and not always maybe then making space, because again it depends how you consider them, because
mhm,
I've also played around with them and ended up using them in a way which someone said, yeah, is it really a year ahead? And I was like, technically it was, because I
mhm,
pulled them all in advance on December.
mhm,
But I ended up literally, I didn't even make notes. I took a picture of it. I made a note of
mhm,
literally what the cards and the rune was. And then
mhm,
I would only pull them out in front of me to even consider them in that
mhm,
month, and
mhm,
the invitation and all of that stuff. And because I don't, there are predictive qualities to my readings, but I don't read inherently as a prediction.
mhm.
That's a whole different layer in and of itself, which is kind of like a contrast with a New Year's reading anyway.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then it just, yeah, there was, I had got some good bits out of experimenting with it for a couple of years,
Mhm,
but I ended up making, which arguably is makes a lot of sense for what I said. I made on my Patreon a breakdown of like something that people could do if they wanted to do a reading like that and consider what they might want to bring into a season.
mhm,
And the same, it's sort of like an amalgamation of like a spread meets just prompts depending on how people want to use
mhm.
it, and then they can use it each season. And I mean, they could use it whenever the fuck they want, but
Yeah. That's a
I
great
did it
idea.
to be like that. And even
Yeah.
that still got that predictive edge to it. But because
Mhm,
I tend to, like you said, we have our micro seasons, like our internal ones. But for the most part, I would say I'm particularly like activated by the seasons. I do seem
mhm.
to, over the years, the more attention I've paid to it, the more of like a basic bitch I am in terms of
Yeah.
like I fit most of the key points. My deck
Mhm,
edits are a lot more about how I feel that season is showing up in particular each season. So
mhm,
like I haven't put my winter edit video up yet because I haven't edited it, but it's got decks that I feel link with the things that I'm engaging with in winter: liminality,
mhm,
spaciousness, the space
mhm.
between death and rebirth, threshold
Right.
movement. Um, but they don't look necessarily like winter, or they don't all feel wintry in that way, but they speak to that
Mhm.
stuff really well. And I think that changes.
Thematically, yeah.
Yeah, because I looked at my
Yeah.
last year's winter deck edit just out of sheer curiosity. It's
Mhm,
almost entirely different to this year's. And not because
mhm,
I don't like any of those decks. And I own, I think, all of them still, but it
mhm.
just a different vibe.
Different
But
vibe, yeah.
yeah, so it's like there's an overarching vibe that I'm like basic bitch, and then there's like the nuances that come in.
Yeah.
But I think what's quite clear, even just the two of us talking about it, it's someone else's structure plonked onto everyone. It doesn't work
Mhm.
because we're
Yeah.
not whoever made it.
Yeah. I find too with like year ahead readings specifically, if I set out 12 cards and these are supposed to be my 12 cards for my energy for the month or whatever, I will I feel like I make up excuses to validate those cards that don't necessarily or wouldn't necessarily be a part of my life or my experience had that card not influenced it. So, like,
Yeah.
Tower's a great one, for example. I absolutely love the Tower. I know people hate to see it, but I love the Tower because it means shit's getting shaken up and something's going to change, and that's really exciting. But take the Tower, for example. If I get a Tower as, this June's going to be my Tower month, then I feel like even if everything's just running super even keel and nothing is like shaken up or nothing feels Tower like, I will find
And
something
so you're
to try
looking
and
for it.
validate it. And
Mm.
if it's not there, sometimes I think I freaking manifest it, and not always in a good way. And I feel like that puts too much pressure on me to try and fit my life into the card in order to validate the
Yeah.
practice. And
So
it
it's not
just,
working vice versa how you want it to. Like they're
yeah,
speaking to you in a moment, but actually they're telling you
yeah.
like
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. I don't want my cards or my practice to tell me how to be. I want it to help me understand how I already am.
yeah.
So it's a conversation versus a lecture,
Mm.
basically. And I feel like when I do more predictive style readings like that, like a year ahead and things
Mm.
of that nature, I feel like I'm being told how to be,
Yeah.
which is bizarre because I can pull a card in the month. But I think the disconnect for me is if I pull a card to represent this month, I'm doing it in the moment, in that state of being that I'm currently in, not 3 months
Mm.
ago, not 6 months
Yeah.
ago, when I was a totally different person then. And I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for the amount of change that we can
Yeah.
do. And then people poo poo all over us when we do change. But everybody's constantly
Totally does.
changing every single day.
Yeah.
Like, you are not the same
Scientifically as well,
person.
not just all of the other stuff,
Right.
our
Yeah.
skin's constantly doing its thing and
Like, you are literally not the same person you were yesterday
mm.
on multiple levels.
Yeah.
Like, down from the cellular up to like the higher conscious
Yeah.
version of you. And I feel like things like year ahead readings and stuff like that don't allow me personally
Yeah.
space to explore that. I feel like it tries to put me in a box, and then my rebellious side kicks in and is like, nope, nope, nope.
I think that's the thing as well, is like when we talk about that stuff, like it's very much like for us from our own experience and perspective. And we shouldn't obviously always have to disclaimer that. You'd hope it
Mhm.
would be a given. But I do think that sometimes because it works for other people, which is fantastic and grand, and it would
Mhm.
make sense, right? Because all different practices, approaches, relationship styles, like preferences, we all have different ones. And so that's
Mhm.
obviously going to show up in everything we do, including our
Mhm.
tarot. And I think I often don't see this kind of less predictive or even non-predictive, depending on where people land on that spectrum, as at odds with predictive. It's more how something works for a person, which is the
Mhm.
more important part, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think that's what it was for me, is that I came from a place when I was little where people were commonly using it as predictive. And it's one of the reasons
Mhm.
why I fell out of like, love, whatever with it, because it wasn't it wasn't working for me. Like whether
Mhm.
I can or I can't make sense of it actually feels irrelevant to me because it wasn't working for me in a productive manner. And
Yeah.
it's like, and not productivity in that way, but like it didn't
Yeah.
feel nourishing, it wasn't useful, it wasn't beneficial. And so,
Mhm.
like I said, it's not void of that for me, but it's definitely not driven by it. And that
Yeah.
works. And I think
Yeah.
that's the looping back to the New Year's thing. It's like really a strange concept to me that not that people do these things, but that it's more, they're sort of sold as the common things that people do. You
Mhm.
set New Year's resolutions, and when you enter the tarot community, you
It's
do,
it's tradition. You do
yeah,
a
like
year
the
ahead
Celtic
reading.
spread, and then the
Yeah.
year ahead spread.
Mhm.
And I actually didn't mess with the year ahead spread for years because At points there were actually genuinely times when I thought, if I know that much in advance, and I, like you say, the way that you engage with that and put stock in it, there were points where my mental health was feeling different, where it would not have been healthy for me to do that because of the relationship. Now, arguably, other people would say, yeah, but I don't read like that predictably, so it wouldn't have been an issue, which is fine because their brains are not there and their emotions aren't at that place, but it would have felt just not a good space for me.
Yeah.
So, because I will argue that the last time I did a year ahead spread, I remember seeing a card as it come up and thinking like, oh, well, I don't think that's going to be an issue because things are okay. And then something really come and shat on my world experience. And I was like, nuts. And I wasn't worried about it. And it did happen. So it's not like I haven't had very connective experiences with it.
I have too. Yeah.
Definitely not for me in the same way. And so I end up playing with these concepts of like other things to do in and around either transitional points or in and around the new year, but just for like to play with, to experiment.
Yeah.
Not very many of them stick.
Yeah. I think that's a big thing with the year ahead spread too. Like for me, like they're fun. Like they are legitimately fun to do in the moment because especially if you're using multiple decks, for most of us, that is there's the biggest reading that for a lot of us, that's the biggest reading we do. Yeah. Like for me, a year ahead spread, if I've got 12 monthly cards, 9 times out of 10, I've got some oracles. Either I've done where like an oracle for each season, I've done an oracle companion for each month. Like I could have 20, 30 cards on the table. Yeah. It's the biggest reading I ever do. And it's fun. It's play. And I think there's value to that because there's definitely value in play for play's sake, I think. But sometimes I get caught up in the play of it, and like it's fun to do a big year ahead reading, but then again, like you said, it doesn't stick because I'm not actually invested in what the messages were at that time. Yeah. And I know for me personally, how I am today is not how I'm going to be 6 months from now. So like me pulling cards for 6 months from now doesn't do me any good.
That experiment, but there is,
yeah, it's all out the window. But then some people come up with these, like they come up with these really ingenious ways to do it, which again, super fun. Remember the envelope thing that was going around for a while?
Yeah, that was cool.
I so wanted to do the envelope thing because I'm like, that is so cool. But I know me. I will pull that card out of the envelope and go, this doesn't relate at all anymore because I pulled it in December and it's now June and I'm not the same person. Yeah. And so it would be a disconnect for me. But like the whole idea of like doing the envelope readings and having those readings like available to you, like I think it's super cool. And I wish it worked for me. I wish it worked for me, but it just doesn't. And it doesn't really resonate with how I work with the tarot in general too. So I think because I don't really look to my tarot and my readings to problem solve. I look to understand what's already going on inside of me. And so I feel like a card that I pulled 6 months ago doesn't reflect my internal state right now.
Yeah. And I think we probably land in a very similar space there, and which is really interesting. So I want to pick your brain also about the collective card, because I know we land in different places with it. And as you're talking, I'm listening and I'm also trying to think like, what is it about the collective card of the year that works for me then? Because arguably it's such a contradiction to what I have just said. But what I recognize is, at least if you're following the traditional card of the year, we're working with the major archetypes. We don't like fall into the rest of the cards. Right. And for me, as someone who, as a fan of archetypes in a greater way, and all of the various archetypes, because arguably then they're not all covered in just the majors.
Right.
I feel like that conceptually makes sense to me. I like working with archetypes, and because they feel so macrocosmic at that stage, the idea of perhaps considering how just one My
Mm-hmm.
rock in and out of my life over the
Mm-hmm.
12 months feels a lot more loose and non sort of, I guess, like oppressive in that way for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are points when I think about it and I feel really in it, and there are points when I
Mm-hmm.
don't. I guess you could say is obviously going to happen through a 12-month period if it's only one
Mm-hmm.
card. But I
Yeah.
think that's why it works for me, and because I can almost, it's not like ripping the archetypes from the tarot and voiding
Mm-hmm.
them a bit, but I do feel like because they are so big, they can touch upon so many areas in particular, a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more the specifics of the minors. The minors can
Mm-hmm.
really do anything, but it's just that different energy, that macro and that
Yeah.
micro.
It's bigger. Yeah.
And I think it's so funny because I will work with and I haven't always done that. I
Mm-hmm.
think Lindsay Mack was the person who got me sort of like more acutely, that's not a word, acute
Acutely. Yeah.
aware of it. And then it's just kind of made sense for me. So I've probably done it for about 4 or 5 years easily, I think. And but it feels loose. It's like this thing up there that I kind of
Mm-hmm.
mess around with throughout the year without it
Mm-hmm.
being a huge deal. I will make a spread around it, usually for my patrons as well, if they want to like dip
Mm-hmm.
into that particular archetype at some point. And that's something also that they can return to at different points through the year. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, then you're going to get a very present reading in that moment, broken
Right.
down into how. So I feel like it's like that minimalizing and making something bigger, but not in a structured way, allows me to then do my thing. Like you said, like I can
Mm-hmm.
change and I can ignore it for a few months and then dip back
Mm-hmm.
into it. And it's all loosey goosey, but somehow it gets done and it works.
Good.
Um, that's
That's
probably
cool.
the most structured thing I do is I think about it quite innately from December because I work a month in advance and I do it with my
Mm-hmm.
Patreon. We do like a transitional threshold type thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then I definitely have checked in with it, but like naturally mid year. So it's not like on the 6th month. It's
Mm-hmm.
sometime between like 5 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will specifically check in with it at the end of the year. So I have already thought about how the hermit showed up,
Mm-hmm.
multiple times now. So it's funny because there is something I do like that's
Right.
kind of traditional, but it just feels a lot looser to me. And yet, like, who's to say whether those numbers that, we do all the math and this is the card of the
Mm-hmm.
year, to say that's right or wrong or means anything. Because again, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, I can't remember if we were recording at the time. I don't think we were, but when you were saying like time is not real.
Time's a construct. Yeah.
It's like that like everything, tarot's a construct, that's
Mm-hmm.
a construct. I just happen to weirdly make it work for me. But you don't
Mm-hmm.
work with the card of the year either, right?
No, and I think, and part of that I think is my, like, if I'm being honest about it, it's my rebellious nature coming in, going, everybody's working with that energy. Nope, I'm
Yeah.
not doing it. Yeah.
I
It really is. It's me going,
love
and I
that.
think that comes back to like, you're not gonna tell me how to show up in my own life. So the collective, and to me, this
I
like
do hate that term, by the way. It
this
still
is
gives me
really, I hate the term too, but that idea of like, you know, society telling me how to operate as a 40 something year old woman and
yeah,
all of that. Like, I feel like that kind of energy is what I get out of the whole card of the collective card of the year, because I feel like it's everybody else telling me how to show up.
yeah,
And my rebellious inner self goes, no, you are not going to tell me how to show up in my own life. So you are not going to tell me that it's a hermit year. And you're not going to tell me that it's a tower year. I will tell you what year it is for me.
yeah.
But I think that's a very like me rebellious thing, but also like, just in general,
It makes
the
sense
constant
though.
fight to show up how,
Yeah,
because everybody tells us how to show up. Everybody,
yeah.
society, our parents, our friends, like
Oh,
people who
just
love us,
constantly.
everybody's telling us how to show up in the world.
Yeah,
And
be
the
less,
only
be more,
person,
do this.
yeah. social media, whatever. Like the only person that matters is you and how you think you need to show up in the world. And so I think all of that is a lot to put into one little freaking card. That's a lot of baggage. That's my own personal baggage I'm pulling into that one poor little card. It's not the card's fault, and it's not the collective energy fault. It's my own, like, little, your whole life people have told you how to be. I'm not going to have somebody, the collective, my tarot, whoever, tell me how to be in my year.
So it hits that for you.
It hits that. It's a triggery thing. So I don't do it because, and that's a very me thing. Like it's such a weird, like, specific me thing, right? So it's nothing about, like, I think it's great.
Understands it. Like when you explain it, the rebel in me is very aligned with it for all of the reasons that you've said as well. Like, don't fucking tell me what to do after years of just be less of this and do this and show up. Like it's crap. And that's why it's so funny to me, because I think that they sort of say like, oh, this is how we think it's going to show up. And I guess I just kind of go, this is how I think it might show up. There you go, people. Let me know if it showed up like that or not. And so I guess I've spun it, but I've chosen to do it as well. And that's the framing in itself. But like you said, it is a very, who's to say that that's a thing is still utterly valid, like, because I don't know. And what's interesting is I've never thought about thinking, what card would I have picked archetypally out of the majors? For instance, I could include the others, but my brain doesn't want to. What would I pick as a representation for this year? And whilst the Hermit, I did feel like it come up a lot. It's not the card that I'm going to pick for this year at all. I absolutely would have picked it without being entirely morbid, and for not of the wonderful psychological and metaphorical reasons either, just the very fucking literal. So arguably there are still those, it's not really the only card that took up a lot of space in my existence. I do find it interesting to look at, like, I don't do it actively with my partner because he's got no interest, but I do like to think, how does the Hermit, like, has it showed up for him? Like, he's like an experiment that he doesn't know about.
Right. As it should be. Yeah.
So I really understand and respect your stance on it as well. And I find it really interesting that I've somehow pulled that out of mine when I feel similarly to you about the other stuff. But if someone told me I had to do it, I would stop doing it. That's the worst part. Like, I do, well, I like to think that those things don't have an impact on me, and I would just go to myself and my safe space and my choice. Too many people started to be like, you have to do this, otherwise you're not a tarot reader. I'd be like, watch me not do it and have a fine tarot practice. Like, watch me not combust.
I totally get that energy. I do, though. I do believe in the idea of collective energy. Absolutely. I just don't want to be told how it's going to show up for me. But I 100% believe that there is collective energy. Like, we see it here in, like, just in TarotTube, right? One of us starts talking about something, and then somebody on another channel starts talking about something. Two channels that have never interacted before.
And they've not seen each other.
They've not seen each other. Like, I've seen it happen several times where, like, I will make a video when somebody will reach out to me that I don't even know. They're like, I just made a video about that topic. This is not a person I know. We've never had a discussion. So I do feel like collective energy is absolutely a thing. And I think that it's really cool, and I think it's valid. And I think there's a lot of potential there that we don't even remotely tap into and make good use of. But the whole idea of the card of the year as representing a collective energy, I feel like it's the approach. But I also feel like the idea of, I don't feel like collectively we sit in one space either. So
Yeah.
I feel like collectively we shift and we move.
The
So
ebb and
to
flow.
say
Yeah.
that, yeah, to say that collectively we're in a hermit, well, not always, right?
Mm.
Because we may be in a hermit for a while, but then collectively then we'll maybe switch to the Empress or something, or death or whatever. And I feel like we don't sit in one space
Mm.
for a year. And then my brain goes back to so from January 1st to December 31st, we're collectively just this. And then
Yeah.
when January 1st hits again, now all of a sudden the energy shifted. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
Energy does not give two shits about our calendar because time
No,
is a
not at
construct and
all.
it doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah. And I hadn't thought about that, I guess, because the way that I approach it is very much like this is how I view this archetype. This is the many ways that it can show up.
Mm-hmm.
Do what you would. So I don't really think about it from a very like what people are going to do or not do or how they feel or don't feel about it. Not in a horrible way,
Mm-hmm.
but I just assume if
Yeah.
someone doesn't align with it or if they think, well, I'll consider how this might show up and when it does in my year. And then I'll
Mm-hmm.
also think about all of the other things that show up
Mm-hmm.
because I guess that's probably one of my problems. I hope and assume that everyone's just going to do as they will
Mm-hmm.
with it. And so, and I'm not always good at specifying exactly how I work with something. I try
Mm-hmm.
as best as I
Mm-hmm.
can, but as you say, it's like because we're human as well, we have all these contradictions and
Mm-hmm.
changes and things that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I've changed my mind, I don't like that anymore, or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. And
Heaven forbid.
to encapsulate it and then keep it in a moment like it's never going to do anything. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting to hear it because I think now if someone was to look at how I presented the hermit stuff at the beginning of the year, or whether that was on
Mm-hmm.
Patreon newsletter, they might think that I'm very like, oh, and the hermit ends on, like he said, and
Mm-hmm.
well, no, that doesn't make sense to me at all. So I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of take it as this will be big thematically,
Yeah.
possibly. And then I'm curious about it. But yeah, it's funny. I'm like, am I a part of the problem? Because I don't really talk about that. I
No,
just
it's
work with it
definitely
how it
like
makes sense
it's
to me.
it's definitely not a problem. Like lots of people do like your head readings and
Mm.
um it's there those
But
are
more like you said, it's not that it's, I don't believe that things are locked into those points. And yet
hmm
some of my practices may appear like they're in
hmm
contradiction to that, which is really interesting because, of course, there's the bits that I share with everyone, and then there's the rest of how I function every
hmm
day, which, of
hmm
course, as a creator, you know, it's just impossible to keep everyone in every second of that loop
hmm
because also no one cares. Like they might
Also,
like
no one
the
cares. Like,
content,
yeah,
yeah, but
nobody would want to see my every moment of every day. It's very boring. Like, it's very
yeah.
boring. I'm just working most of the time.
And like
Or like,
also, can you imagine? I'd be like, well, for 3 months I didn't think about the hermit. I felt like I was in this card. So just to let you know,
hmm
I wasn't with it. I didn't agree
hmm
with it. And then
hmm
suddenly come back and be like, oh, but I really agree with it in August because it
hmm
was really relevant.
hmm
It'd be like, what?
I think that's like the missing piece
It probably
from
is.
I think that's the missing piece from just like talking about it in a community and sharing about it is that we don't talk about the points when it gets messy and when shit
Yeah.
doesn't work and I said I was gonna do this thing, but I'm not feeling it anymore. Like and I think that a lot of times and it's really easy as a content creator to just let things slide in the background because you don't want to admit that you totally screwed that up
Yeah.
and because it doesn't actually make for good content, right? It
No,
really it,
I
it,
think
it doesn't.
paid subscribers tend to be a lot more engaged in my
Yeah.
experience with
hmm
the this stuff.
Yeah.
But the general consensus and the free public on a grander scale, no, couldn't
hmm
give less of a
Yeah.
crap.
Right. Yeah. And but I feel like that it's a valid part of all of this practice, the stuff that
Yeah.
we do. And I don't think it's talked about enough, like we're doing here. Like the reason I don't like year ahead readings and why they don't work for me. And I have tried them many times and I've done many practices. Like I did the 𝗗𝗄𝘄 thing. At the time this comes out, I will have already talked about it on my channel, but I started 2025 doing the 𝗗𝗄𝘄 my life thing. And that was so fun and I loved it. But about halfway through the year, it became homework and I had too many other things going on and I had to drop it. And I began to realize that there for a small chunk of time, I just didn't talk about it because I wasn't doing it. So therefore, it didn't occur to me to talk about it. But there were other people that were doing it. And I was like, I need to be like transparent with the fact that I'm not doing it anymore because I totally fell off of it. I ran out of time. It stopped being a priority. I had to pick and choose. Yeah. And it started to become homework. And now I'm just ticking boxes. I'm doing it because I feel obligated. And that is not how I want my practice to be. And I feel like things with like the year ahead readings and the all that kind of stuff, those to me, when I was doing them, while they're fun in the moment, they did feel like ticking a box. I did it because I was supposed to do it. Because that's what it's like doing a reading on your birthday. You're supposed to do a reading on your birthday, right? Everybody does a reading on their birthday. You do a birthday reading. It's just
that's the loop. I didn't know that. I know that for the more witchy inclined, which again puts me in I am obviously, I consider myself a witch, but I just feel like I don't fit, I guess. But I'm sure loads of people feel like that. Is that their new year is then October, and specifically Samhain, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
Which again comes with its own level of construct. Yes, the season changes. Is the date always at that specific? No, but is the date helpful? Yes. And I go back and forth with stuff like that with people all the time, which is why I'm like, you do what works.
Yeah.
I know that when I've spoken about New Year before, because a lot of people ask me, like, talk about the New Year, which is where those New Year transition videos came from on my Patreon. But they're not what people think they are, because especially the first year I did, it was a lot of me saying, hey, I don't do this, this, and this, and this, because... and some people, when I'd ask them, they said, oh, well, we do it in October. So it's like a bunch of people do it in October. A bunch of people do it in the calendar year swap over, and then a few of us, myself included, said sometime in and around the spring feels like when we're more inclined to the things that people associate with like New Year.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see those kind of splits and, you know, rules versus non-rules. But yeah, as you say, I think especially for new people, it's so unhelpful to feel like there's this structure that they have to place themselves within. And I know that I felt like that. I mean, I've spoken to you about it before with the cults and the way that I was taught the cults, all based around they had to be people in your life, and they specifically had a certain hair color and a certain suit and stuff. And I love structure, but I hated that because it never made sense to me, because I never knew someone at the right time and the right card. Like, it just didn't fit.
Right.
And I just remember thinking, like, what even is this then? Like, it doesn't work. And it would be such a tragedy, to me at least, for someone to get that spark, pick up that tarot deck or find that tarot deck or be gifted it or whatever and get excited and come, and something that's considered like you have to do it, but they do it, it doesn't click for them, and they just leave. And I mean, it's not prerogative, but it would be a shame because it's like not the full experience before they decided it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
And I
love the idea of them. I really, like, honestly, truly love the idea of the year ahead readings. I love the idea of,
such
you know,
it's as well.
It's such pretty pictures. So, you know, and this whole idea of like, okay, it's the opportunity to start fresh. And I really love that idea, because I love shaking things up and starting things again. But it just, like, as much as I want that to fit the way I work with the cards, it just doesn't. And it took me several years to be okay with that, because that's
Yeah.
like that's how you're supposed to do. Like, right? If you're a tarot reader, you're supposed to do a year ahead reading. That was like kind of drilled into me over years.
Yeah.
That's just what you do. If you were going to do no other reading, that was the reading you should be doing. And it's like I had the same thing with the 𝗵𝗄𝗺 for a really long time.
Yeah. I hate the spread.
Yeah, I hated that spread too. And because it was the end all be all. Like, I have a different approach to it now. I think Lisa and I a couple of years ago did a whole video about the 𝗵𝗄𝗺. But I had to find my way of working with it.
Yeah.
And
the language is really outdated in itself.
Yeah. So I think things like the 𝗵𝗄𝗺 or year ahead spreads are things that come from these. They do come from a good traditional place. But if it doesn't fit in the way you work with the cards, then there's no point, because it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
But also, like, there's people coming up with creative ways to do it. You know, like the envelope thing that's just one of the more recent ones I can think of. But there's been lots of them. You know, coming up with more creative ways to engage with that experience in a different way. And that's fantastic. Maybe someday somebody will create one of those that will actually work for me. But right now, anything I've tried so far doesn't actually click. But
yeah, I love the idea of rewilding and reworking stuff, like, for sure. And I'll always try it, but as you say, it's just what works in the time. But that's why we love doing these videos, right? Because I guess for all of the other content we do, and then considering some of it's paywalled, and, you know, firstly, fairly, but secondly, also the people that invest in those paywalls tend to be more invested in you as a rounded person, and you're allowed to have a personality and traits and faults and varied hobbies and stuff. And it's so niche specific in the rest of, like, the more wider public. So these videos are kind of one of our ways of, like, coming and doing the other bit, right?
Yeah, kind of stretching beyond.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Lynn, do you have New Year plans or goals, and I don't mean New Year like start in January.
Right. Yeah, just plans for the next year.
Yeah, plans for the next year. Because I know as a content creator, at least you, like me, we have to think about it sometimes in blocks of time, even though it feels arbitrary. And also, just curiously, like, I know we've both been in a reassessment or entering into one. So I'm just kind of curious what the new year then looks like for you, at least calendar-wise, like how that shows up as well.
I think, well, it's weird when you're a content creator, because a lot of times you're actually, like, in the future.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
like, you're in the future.
On January.
You're always a month ahead. So like, that's a very specific content creator type of space to be in, though. But it makes it interesting, because your content that you're creating, like, we're recording in December, I'm making January stuff, as are you.
Yeah.
We right now, this very moment, we are making something for January. So we're in the future. And it's an interesting space to be in, and it can be very disruptive to what's going on in your personal tarot, which is more in the moment. And so for me, like, my private paid stuff, my membership is that in the moment, and then the forward stuff is what's public. As for what, like, my practice is gonna look like, and what I've got, like, plans for 2026, like, I have my thing that I'm doing in my membership, which is a year-long guided practice, which is so funny, because I make jokes, but I don't do year stuff, but my practice every year is yearly. And that is really just, like, for, you know, the logistics of it, because I can't come in and go, hey guys, we're going to do this thing, and maybe we'll do it this month, and maybe we'll do it next month, and then maybe it might end and we're going to switch to something else. You can't show up like that as a creator, even though my personal practice looks like that.
Yeah.
As a creator, you have to show up, you have to be consistent, and you have to be you have to provide what people can count on.
Yeah.
So I
Or at
do
least
have to
make them engage
operate.
with, even if you're not.
Right, yeah. Yeah. And then but then like I'm simultaneously doing it too at the same time, so it's really weird because I've done it once as I made it, but then I'm doing it again like for real in the
Mm,
month so that I can participate along with my members and stuff like that. But so that is very like year specific. It has a very specific structure. Every month has a specific theme, which
yeah.
is kind of hypocritical when you
See,
think
we're
about the
always part of the
fact,
problem.
right? When you think about the fact that I just said I don't like the thematic framing of a card per month,
But you
right?
pick the themes. That's
But
okay.
I picked the themes because the themes are already picked out for the whole of
Yeah.
the year, right? Because I have to write the content, because I have to create the PDFs, because it's
Mm,
not just me coming on and saying, oh, here's this thing we're going to do. Like, I have to provide my members with all of that content that they can then take and do with it. So, there's the writing of it and the editing of it and the putting the PDF together and like all
yeah.
the things and the
Yours is
distributing.
kind of
No.
wild, actually. Maybe that's why you don't like the other thing. Because, like, I work a month in advance on everything,
Mm-hmm.
like on Patreon, and
Mm-hmm.
I might, if I'm lucky, have like something 3 months advance, or like something will run for three, but I've never run anything for like a whole year as a solid other than
Mm-hmm.
animal gnosis, which has different
Right.
facets. So
Right.
it's like I am working a month in advance, and then if something feels like it needs to really be in the present, then I will
Mm-hmm.
save it and do it in the month. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like yours is both very present and then very future based. So no
Mm-hmm.
wonder you don't want to do anything else, that's because you've already given it all to that.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, I guess. So that's very structured and very like
Mm.
yearly, but like on the whole, I feel like as I come into 2026, how do I say this? Some of my interests are shifting because I'm growing as a creator and I'm
Mm.
have other things that I want to do. So there is a re-evaluating and a reshifting of my resources and my energy, which means because here at the end of the day, while I want to do all the things, there's only so much of me to go around.
Yep.
And I do still have like friends and family and, a husband who would occasionally like my attention. And, I can't like, I would love to do all the things, but I can't. So then
Mm.
you're at the point where every time I add something, and this is I feel like where I've gone sort of wrong in previous years, which I'm trying to address coming into the new year, is that every year I add, like I
Yeah.
want to do this new thing and I want to do this new thing and I want to do this new thing. The problem is when I do that, I'm still carrying all the shit from the year previous that
Yeah.
I
You
either
need to
didn't
let it.
get done or I'm still doing, or, what have you. And so it's not like the slate gets wiped clean at the beginning of a new year. It's not
No.
like I stopped doing all the other things I was doing. I've just now added more
Yeah.
to the point where I am at this point now after doing that for several years that I can no longer manage my own workload.
Mm.
I can't manage my own practice, like because it's all gotten to be too much because I just keep adding to the plate. So I think for this year, like my goal is to find those more priority things,
Mm.
focus on those, and then I have to let go of some things, which
Yeah.
means stuff's going to shift. Because where I've gone wrong is consistently just adding more goals, more things I want to do, and not either letting some of the things that aren't really working or that maybe just aren't as valuable or nourishing to me as I thought, maybe they would be, or maybe they were at one point and they just aren't anymore.
Mm.
And so it's kind of like that overarching issue that I'm trying to address in this year of not adding more on top of what I already have, but adjusting. So
Yeah.
if I'm going to add this, then that means something else needs to go away to make space for it. And I feel like I've gone really wrong with that over the last few years, which is how I've
Mm.
ended up, I think, in part with the burnout and the, days when I'm just like, I want to walk away from all of this because it is way too much work and I am only
Mm.
one person. And like, those days when you're like crying over it because
Yeah.
like the world has no idea like how much of yourself you dump into it.
Yeah.
How about you?
So mine's has similarities. It's not I wouldn't say, I mean, I would like that it pans out by the end of 2026, but mine's, like I said, I can't help myself because I'm like very seasonal.
Mhm.
It's in the winter,
Mhm.
which is obviously going to take me, like I said, into March at least.
Mhm.
I'm very much in a scaling back. Um, I don't think that's necessarily going to show up. It won't affect my paid offerings at all
Mhm.
currently. But for the same reason as you, like lots of reassessment, lots of stuff that I won't bore people with too much because it literally it's a whole different discussion in and of itself.
Mhm.
But the burnout and the fact that I kept thinking that I was having all these mini burnouts when actually that's not what I believe burnout to be like. I think you can get exhausted, but I don't think you
Mhm.
can keep having burnout every 2 months. I think you probably were still burnt out and
Yeah.
convinced. And I'm like, yeah, I like when you were saying those days when you want to burn it, not only have I wanted to burn it all the fuck down, but have literally cried about it this morning. First thing,
Mhm.
open my eyes, all of the stuff floating around about the realities of it and the realities of
Mhm.
trying to survive on so little as well.
Mhm.
And how much of our output, like you said, it's not only can you not see it in the work, and it doesn't matter if it's quality, you
Mhm.
still don't see all of the bits. It's really hard
Mhm.
unless you create to truly know,
Mhm.
even with all the quality in the world, how much work has gone into one piece.
Mhm.
But it's all of the free stuff. It's all of the it's just so layered, and
Mhm.
the wanting to carve out, for me, not wanting to lose the facet of it that is my practice and that is
Mhm.
absolutely sacred to me, like,
Mhm.
which is one of the few words that thankfully doesn't give me the ick, even though it's
Mhm.
overused. It's like, I mean, I use all of the words, I use collective, I just cringe when I do it,
Yeah.
but it's my practice is so sacred to me, and I feel like my thing for the winter, so moving towards like March, is to scale back and reassess, because similar to you, I'm in a phase where my body changed a lot, like my health conditions and stuff through the last year.
Mhm.
Again, I'm sure people feel like I'm a broken record. Imagine what it's like to experience it. It is
Yeah.
boring as shit.
Mhm.
It's very real, and that had a massive impact. But
Mhm.
also, like you say, changes. And I don't know, for me, I don't think that anything's massively changed in terms of that needs to go just yet, other than I do too much. So I
Mhm.
kind of work out how to cut out stuff, but not practices because I've not finished with them, but like
Right.
just I need to learn to work smarter and not harder, because I failed at that in 2025, which is
Mhm.
okay, but it was a
Mhm.
failure.
Mhm.
I want to be real about it. I didn't do it. But also there is a part of me that's been really called to expanding into something in my craft. And because it
Mhm.
traverses like being a therapist and working with grief, and then being a witch and working with deathcraft, and then the deathcraft
Mhm.
stuff from before, which I know you know because I sort of
Mhm.
looked before we recorded, because it literally traverses all facets of, like, I guess the labels or the
Mhm.
roles or the things that make up me as a whole, but are kind of separated
Mhm.
by others, or their various sections. It's really all come to a head this year, like, well, 2025, and then moving
Mhm.
into 2026. It's something I want to give more time to. And it's also very niche in itself. It's
Mhm.
very not for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's going to be quite a hybrid because of all of the ways that it takes up space for me.
Mhm.
Because it's not just witchcraft, or it's not just, like one facet.
Right.
So I
It's
really
multi-layered,
want
yeah.
to scale back and learn to, in the first quarter to 2 quarters, how to make some space for myself so that this can emerge. So I kind
Mhm.
of don't know where I'm going to be at the end of it, which we never
Mhm.
do anyway, but
No, we never do. Yeah.
I've not kind of lined out anything more than I would like to feel a little bit more spacious and a lot less stressed, like a lot less expectation that I just would not put on any other human being. And
Right.
it just comes from me. I do think that the platforms that we exist on feed that, which is no one person's fault. It just that's the reality of it. But I really don't think I'm alone in that. Like, I feel like many of us are reassessing, and I think people are going to see a shift, and or not, we're human and it happens. So I'm trying to make space for that. I think it did bring me to mind, though, again, because it's just, I have to get it in because it's another one of those yearly practices, although it's not quite tarot or anything in particular. But I'm guessing you don't do a word of the year either.
I have,
Yeah,
but no, same for all the same reasons.
I've really enjoyed word of the year until this year. And I laughed about it with a couple of people on Instagram Live literally yesterday when we're filming this, not when this is in. Because I said to them, I picked my word of the year in a different way, which was really funny. I just wanted to pick something sumptuous that felt poetic, that felt good in the mouth, that felt exciting. And I picked reverie. And so few moments, I know that's sad, but so few moments have I felt like I could tap into it in what I feel that it shows. I was like, I don't know how I feel about word of the year for 2026, because it really didn't pan out for me.
It didn't work so well, yeah.
And it kind of, I don't want to look back on 2005 and blanket it as shit, you know?
Right. Yeah.
I will blanket it as hard, in fairness.
Yeah.
Hard. But I don't want that to impact and be like, well, there was no reverie. I'm sure there was.
Yeah.
It's just, it wasn't the all singing, all dancing, free roaming expectation that I wonderfully sought out for myself at January when I decided to pick a word for the entire year.
That's why I don't do that, because the expectation will inevitably kill me and I'll just be disappointed. It doesn't matter what the word is. It really doesn't. I could pick any word and I will inevitably be disappointed by how that word did not show up in the way that I thought it was, or the way I thought it should, because I had expectations around it when I picked it.
Yeah.
But I know that about myself, so I just don't do that to myself.
I've had such a good time with it for like 3 years. It's so fun, and different methods each time, but all I don't want to say effective as in this was like not, but just nourishing, I guess. And this year it just, I write it down and make a big song and dance about it and like write notes around it. And it's one of the few times I don't keep notes on the computer and actually make something pretty. And I just did it.
So looking back, I mean, we talked about New Year stuff, but like looking back on 2025, what do you think is like your most, trying to think of how to phrase it, like the most successful practice related thing you did, the thing that like actually gave you a lot of joy, or like your one big takeaway from 2025, to think what year, like, was there one thing that like everything else ebbs and flows or whatever, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but was there one thing about the year that really like went well for you? Yeah, personally.
For sure. I guess arguably it's two things, but I don't massively work with, like, my ancestry practice is very small in comparison to, I guess, more of the majority online, because, you know, online doesn't represent everyone, but mine's very, very niched in and specific to a few ancestors. And then sort of across that, but see, I would just call it all spirit work, which is, they are all different and it is all approached differently, but spirits. So between that and how my connection with Freya in particular, but also Hel and Odin, but Odin is less dominant in the fray. So
Mm-hmm.
Freya and Hill, and my granddad in particular as an ancestor, but also some really poignant work with my aunt, who passed, I think, either the beginning of 2025 or the end of 2024. I won't
Mm-hmm.
get closure around that. We don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
that spirit work praxis and the way that it took shape and what I got from it and what I gave to it, and just that whole experience as someone who spent a lot of time being around a lot of stuff, was atheist for a while,
Mm-hmm.
has a very scientific brain, wants stuff to be proven, and then has played with a lot of stuff over the years and has things felt proven, but not in a way I can prove on a grand scale. All of the messy
Mm-hmm.
stuff, like we talk
Yeah.
about, the
Yeah.
I can't explain this, but soulfully on like a really deep level, just really nourishing to the point of it really doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about it, whether it's real, not real, weird, not like
Mm-hmm.
it's the thing that I give the least fucks about anyone else's opinion, because it's been
Mm-hmm.
so connective, so helpful, and something that I could both devote myself to outside of like my usual how I show up for other people in work,
Mm-hmm.
and then also get something from in a
Yeah.
way that I wasn't really in the rest of life, like in
Mm-hmm.
in those moments when you really need it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that I will also do the brief shout out to the animal gnosis, but it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of that's just forever. I'm just it's that's
Yeah.
not specific to that, but 2025, that was my biggest takeaway. Like connecting with them and living with it in a way where I'm more open about it as well, to be honest, and less sort
Mm-hmm.
of like I do this thing, but I'm going to be sort of coy about it in case someone has
Mm-hmm.
an opinion and thinks I'm an odd bod, because I am odd and I don't.
That's what I like about you, though.
Yeah. So, what about you then? What's your 2025 big hit or hits takeaway? Like, what rocks
Um,
the boat?
like interesting because I think the thing that was probably the most like meaningful and consistent and nourishing for me was also deity work.
I'm like, is it because I know you don't talk about specifics too much, so I don't want to
Mhm.
drag out something that you're private about, but you have worked with the Call of the Morrigan Oracle a
Yeah,
lot.
I did. I've done
Morrigan
quite.
is one of those shapes.
Yeah, Morgan is definitely I would say the two that showed up the most predominantly for me in 2025 and consistently was Hades and the Morgan.
Nice.
And they were probably the most influential. And Hades was interesting because Hades was just like it was a curiosity that developed into more, whereas
Mm,
Morgan just blindsided me out of nowhere. It was like Hades sidled up and was like, "Hey, you want to get to know me?" And Morgan showed up and was like, "Bitch, we're doing this."
yeah.
And I was like, "Okay." So two very, very different energies, but that with all the other stuff that like ebbs and flows, but the deity work, because it's not something I share publicly. I will talk about it in member space and like I've shown my deity journals and stuff like that, but I don't actually, for the most part, I think I've maybe done one or two. I don't show the process.
Yeah.
I don't because it's personal. That is a relationship between me and them. And I feel like that is the one thing that has stayed consistent throughout 2025. Really,
Mm,
it's been consistent for several years now. It's just
yeah.
which deities show up is different. But with all the other things that ebb and flow and like all the different things that I get into and get up to and all of these other practices and changing decks or I'm going to focus on this now or I mean like I've done moon work and I've done decan work and I've done a, like other systems. There was a rune thing, there's an HE thing. Like I've done all those things and they're great and I love them and I love
Mm,
exploring them, but I feel like the deity work is kind of like the one thing that doesn't get the boat doesn't get rocked on that.
yeah.
It's always there. It's always in the background. And I think because of the fact that I don't actually make content about it
Yeah.
makes it feel like it's just mine. Like
Yeah.
like it's like being, you know, in a committed relationship with deities that I'm not out there publicizing to the world, right?
Mm.
I've got the weirdest analogy going on in my brain about like people who have sex in public versus people who have sex behind closed doors. Like, that's taking it to a whole different level. But you know, that idea of keeping that for
Yeah.
yourself,
Mm.
especially as a content creator.
Yeah. I
So,
understand wholeheartedly because I have a kind of challenging relationship with it because I do share a little bit of it because
mhm.
it contextually makes some of my other practices get sparked by some of that
Yeah.
relationship as well. And arguably, I don't have to tell people that, but I have
Mhm.
given people a little bit of insight more this
Mhm.
year. Um, but again, it's like even what they're seeing, like I did a really simple, as in looking rune offering for Odin when I was rededicating to the runes in the latter part of
Mhm.
this year because I'd had a bit of time out for
Mhm.
all of the reasons that we've said, like.
Right.
And I bought a bowl that has an Odin bind rune, and I generally try and engage with him. So I showed like the process of the offerings and stuff.
Mhm.
Firstly, you can't hear all the stuff I'm saying over the top of it because obviously I didn't
Right.
want to share that.
Right.
Secondly, no prep work, too private. No
Mhm.
after work because, of course, no one wants to see dead air for ages in a reel. Um,
Right.
and so it's really funny because I didn't mind sharing it, and people found it like it was a lot more responsive than anything else I've shared this year. Let's put it that way.
Mhm.
But it's interesting because even sharing that, it's like once I'd let it go and out there, it's so much lesser than what it was. It's
Mhm.
hard to have it be a representation because
Mhm.
I feel a little bit twitchy about it. Like there was so much
Mhm.
more to this. And like you
Mhm.
said, relationship. So for me, it's mainly very private with a little bit more
Mhm.
publicized because of some of the other stuff that they sort of engage with. But
Yeah.
it's interesting, isn't it, that we've both had it and that also it's like not that the other things aren't relational, although some of them aren't in the same way, but the
Mhm.
actual relationships are the things
Mhm.
that have steadied throughout the year and been a
Mhm.
really potent part of all of that, which I think is not only interesting but it speaks realms because there's a lot
Mhm.
of different ways that people can approach deity, right? As well, like
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be. It can be archetypal. It can be whatever. I've actually changed the way that I approach them. I was
Mhm.
very. It's an archetype. It's a framework. One
Mhm.
can represent many, and
Mhm.
they kind of prove me wrong.
Yeah.
In my
They
experience of it,
they do that.
it was like, no, 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 no. You can work
Mhm.
with your archetypes, that's fine, but like
Mhm.
don't whittle us down. So
Yeah.
it's been a really interesting, it kind of humbling as well. Like it's a nice
Mhm.
reminder to really engage with. I don't know everything. I can't prove everything. No one can.
Mhm.
And the more important thing is, does it feel okay and healthy? And
Mhm.
if it does, then the rest of it is just for you and whatever you're doing, right?
Mhm. Yeah. I think it's such a cool thing to have when you look back at it because in the moment, like I don't think about it in the moment, right?
No.
It just is this thing that I do, but I don't think about how that actually becomes a through line. The
Yeah.
one of the few consistent things that I actually do. I mean, I do consistently journal and I do consistently do tarot and I do consistently
I was just
plan
saying,
and
we
things like that.
consistently definitely do tarot.
Right. But the way I go about each of those things is
Changes.
not very consistent because I'm constantly changing and I want to explore and I see a video and oh, that's cool. I'm going to try that and that kind of thing. But deity work exists in a different realm because it is very consistent and I
Mm.
do come at it the same way almost every time. It's not as susceptible to my whims, whereas the
Yeah,
rest of my stuff
I
is.
agree.
It's like it shows up how it shows up, and I have to kind of adjust to that, which sounds
Right.
really bizarre.
Mm.
Whereas everything else has to adjust to me, right? Like the decks that I use have to reflect me.
Yeah.
the things that I engage with have to reflect where I am at this point in my life. And deity work is different because it doesn't always necessarily reflect me in that sense. It's like my deities, a lot of them have their own decks and they have their own dice, and those might not be decks that I would be working with right now. Like if I were just to pull, because I'm going to do a tarot reading and it's not a deck I would pull because it doesn't fit the energy or the whatever.
Yeah.
But when I'm working with deity, because that is my conduit, that's my way I converse. It feels right in the moment, even though that deck doesn't necessarily sit in the right seasonal energy or today's vibe or whatever. Because I am such a moody freaking tarot reader. Oh my goodness, I'm so moody, and I get like mad at my decks, and like I talk to them like they're people half the time, which I don't know what that says about me, but it is what it is.
Loads of us do it. You're not alone.
Yeah, I know. I'm not alone in it. Like, you're being a real asshole right now. You know that? Like,
have you ever actually stuck your finger up at a deck? Not just sworn at it, but gone as far as to...
I mean, probably. I've gone as far as, like, literally taking decks and throwing them in the garbage. So... Like, I know you're not supposed to admit that you do that, but I have. And if you have ever thrown a deck away, it's totally fucking fine. It's totally fine.
I actually threw a deck away that will make people cry, but in fairness to me, I didn't know and didn't have the forethought at the time. And not that I'm anti it, but I just know. And it was the original Mythic Tarot that I had had since I was little. And then I was about, oh goodness, I must have been about 14 or 15 when we moved from that house. And I lost the devil card, which I'm sure people can read into in all the fun ways. But we literally removed everything from the house and it wasn't there. So unless someone stole it, which would be a really weird thing to steal, I just don't know what the fuck happened to it. And of course, being a 15-year-old, maybe 14, I just was like, well, the deck is useless, so in the bin.
So chuck it. Yeah. I mean, that's probably better than chucking it in a fit of rage, which I have done.
But I've given one of my decks the finger, so yeah, I have.
That's cool.
I
love that.
I am at that space where I can admit, as much as it's ridiculous, that I have literally gone, oh, fuck it. Like,
yeah. That's
walk
great.
away. I'm sure I'm as much giving myself the finger as anything else.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just really cathartic. Like if I'm doing therapy with people and I'm saying, like smash that bit of Play-Doh or, express it. Why is it okay? Because it's in a therapeutic setting, and like the rest of the time it's too weird. So I'm like, yeah, I've sworn at a deck for sure.
Yeah. Oh no, it's absolutely not too weird. Like I think it's healthy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, at least you're not being that attached to it that you can never part with it. I think,
Yeah. I think, and usually for me, if the ones that I have done that with, I won't admit to how many because there's been a lot, but it's usually because of, it's not even really the deck, like the art or anything. It's because of the production quality of the deck.
Right. Yeah.
It's 9 times out of 10, it's that. There's one deck in particular that I can think of, maybe 2, that were triggering for me. The art was triggering. So I tossed it. And that is as much a catharsis for it. Like I had to physically get it out of my space and out of my house.
Yeah.
And
I burnt a book for a similar reason.
Yeah. I kind of wish I would have burned.
Yeah. It's one of those where not only did it trigger me, not that that's not enough, but what the person had written it was so harmful and many other things to so many people. And the fact that it fell within our realm of like stuff as well. And I was like, this is just an insult to so much. And literally put people that I love at harm if enough people believe this. I'm like, I'm burning this fucker. Like
that's great. That's therapy in itself, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, I don't want to be
I
a part of putting that back out into the world, even charitably. Mm-mm.
yeah, yeah. And that's part of it too, is that it's some of it is you don't want to put it back out into the world. Like
Yeah,
that energy needs to dissipate, not,
yeah. Which is a
pay it
spell in
forward
and of
or whatever.
itself. Like people are
Yeah.
quite happy to do 1,000 other spells and rituals and burn other
Hmm.
things. And
Hmm.
yet when we get into this, like, and the same way with like making money, you can make money all the other
Hmm.
way. Why have we got so many rules that are so specific to these? Because it traverses this either religious, spiritual, sometimes atheist, but like it's when people pull it into the other areas, somehow there's
Hmm.
all these extra rules. And I do understand
Hmm.
those rules have been made for people in those spaces for years, but like we don't have to
Hmm.
perpetuate them.
Hmm. Yeah.
Words are a spell, but burning stuff is a spell too. Like
Hmm.
binning it as a
Yep.
spell too.
That's absolutely a spell.